identified that there's a high unemployment rate, especially in informal settlements. Because where we are based, it's in Atteridgeville, but I stay in a particular place called Station 6. So Station 6 is in the center of many informal settlements, like Churchville, Brazzaville, Siatala. And according to our research, sometimes poverty doesn't choose. Whether you stay in a big house, in a small house, the only thing that is the same, maybe is the size of the yard, but poverty is always there. So within our own feasibility study, we are able to see the children that are going to school. You can see their shoes are open in the front. You can see that it's cold. They do not have school jerseys. You can see that their shirts, they do not have buttons. So we are able to walk up to those children, make sure that we make them feel welcome. Sometimes we ask them to take them to take us to their homes, to introduce us to their parents. It's not easy because some of these parents, they have pride, some of them have ego. But we always remind them that children do not have to suffer because of the pride and the ego that they have. As much as we help people, we know how poverty feels like. Some of us grew up in those poverty. We know how much it limited us. We know how much it prevented us to be. We know how much it cost us to limit ourselves within the classroom and also out of the school premises. So we think doing the feasibility study, we are able to identify those children. So what we do is that we have a central point whereby all these children, they meet, children maybe from 7 different schools. We've been operational for the past maybe 4 years within the breakfast initiative. So by now, they are free to come up and queue up and say, I do not have food. Please today, maybe let it not only be breakfast. Can you please pack also lunch for me? Then we are able to do that. Also, their parents can come with them in the morning. They can even ask, can you please prepare lunch for my child? Can you please prepare this and this and this and this? We do not have school uniform. Can you be able to assist us with this and this and this? And also, within also the social media pages that we have quite a large covering of the people that we stay from. So they are able to contact us and say, okay, Jay, we do not have socks, we do not have shoes. Can you be able to assist us with this and this and this?
Wow.
And yes.
That's absolutely incredible, Jacob, to see the support that you've been able to offer to your community. I wanted to take a break and then we'll speak to Zakes as well to find out more about the work that he's been doing in his community.
I feel great, I feel nice.
Kasha, what's the goal? We're coiling on the highest, the summer level. What's the qua? It's the Nandi sessions with Mr. Shodem. It's the fa of live music. It's the go on SABC Plus. Catch the JR Feel Good sessions at 6 Fridays only on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
The Oranges boys want to wrap up their group campaign on a winning note, while Stellies want to deliver a masterclass performance to triumph away from home. This is the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the joy of African football. RSB Pekana FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Sunday, 19 January at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Happy New Year, South Africa! SAFM wishes you a prosperous and joyful 2025. As we step into a new year of possibilities, we're here, leading the conversations that move us. Thank you for being part of the SAFM family. Here's to making 2025 a year to remember. Together, SAFM, leading the conversations that move us in 2025.
S3 and Lorna Maseko are about to add flavor to your Wednesday evenings. Lorna invites you on a journey of discovering new ways of transforming South African pantry staples into delectable and budget-friendly meals. This Wednesday, Lorna breathes new life into traditional favorites like fermented sorghum, pap and mopani worms, and the iconic bunny chow, adding her signature flair to these timeless comfort foods. Do the most with Lorna's Pantry. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
We continue the conversation on the talking point. You're listening to Citizens Corner. Today we're focusing on schools and in particular individuals that are contributing to the schooling ecosystem and stepping in to fill in some of the gaps experienced by either schools or learners. Jacob Madisha is on the line. He's chairperson of the Ponelopele Community Development in Atteridgeville, and Zakes Manda is chair of Nyeleti Lighthouse based in Meadowlands. So Zakes, tell us a bit about the work that you are doing. I understand you're planting gardens in schools, but where did it all begin?
Oh yes, Katie, thanks once again, and hi to the SAFM listeners. So I am the current chairperson of Nyeleti Lighthouse, which is a non-profit organization which is based in Meadowlands in Zone 10. So it all began during the time of looting, which was around 2019. So as us, the residents within the community, we put our hands up just to help out in terms of community engagements, because you knew that time it was a very confusing time. The spaza shops were closed and we couldn't even get some of the basic things. So as we were having these community engagements, there were a lot of some of the challenges which the community voiced out. And this was actually the birth of the Nyeleti Lighthouse, a non-profit organization. So since then, we have managed to set up a community vegetable garden at our local school, which is at Tembalatu Primary School here in Zone 10 in Meadowlands. So this was just to address the challenges of the rising food prices, which are your vegetables, which we can all, as a community, grow them ourselves. So, but this also was to actually help out the National School Nutritional Program with providing them with those vegetables that we grow in the school. So that's how we started.
And when the community then came together to run this project, how did you end up deciding who would be responsible for what? Because the ideas are there in communities, right, to step in and do something. But there is a point where it breaks. Sometimes it's because people can't agree on who must be the group leader, who must buy the seeds that, that are going to be planted in the first round of planting for these gardens. So how did you work out whatever issues you had faced to get to the point now where you actually have, a fully fledged garden? I don't know how many you have in the community, but where you're actually able to run projects like this?
Oh, okay. So like I indicated earlier on, that we started with community engagements. So as we were engaging the community, we just called out just to say who can volunteer, who can give out their time in terms of coming to set up the garden, and actually who has seeds. So it was actually...
For me, the point is that there's a role that each of us can play. It doesn't matter how big you think the role might be or how small you think the role might be. The point is that there is something that each of us can get up and do and contribute to improving our schooling system. So, Zakes, I want you to speak to me about the impact that these gardens have had on the schools, but also on the broader community.
Oh, okay. So the impact has been really great because on a weekly basis, we're able to give out the feeding scheme program at the school. So we give them, which is a donation, we give them vegetables like spinach, onions, cabbage, just for them to supplement
already what they have. But also this has really brought the community together because of we are able to contribute in terms of not only helping out with the feeding program, but also the kids get to learn in terms of where the food actually comes from, which is another element, and they get to appreciate that.
What an absolutely amazing story there. And you think about feeding schemes, and because these are schemes that often are getting some kind of subsidy from the education department, people don't think about the fact that the money that they get actually is just enough, for them to get by. And with the hunger problems becoming more and more prevalent in our schools, the capacity also needs to be increased. Would you say that that's what you have experienced with schools in your area around hunger?
Yes, so not only do we do a community vegetable garden at the school, but we also have a weekly feeding program, which we do it once a week because of limited resources. But in here, the focus really is kids. So we prioritize the little ones just after they come out from school, for them just to have a nice, nutritional, balanced meal. You'll be shocked, Cathy, that to find out that actually the kids, this will be their last meal up until they have another meal at the school. So these are the stories that come out as we engage with the kids, as we engage with the community. So yes, you said it. These type of initiatives, they really need government support. They really need a community coming together and sharing the resources that they have.
Okay, we're going to continue the conversation shortly. It's time for the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. The news headlines on SAFM. I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has arrived in Maputo, Mozambique, to attend the inauguration of President-elect Daniel Chapo. A senior Hawks officer stationed at the head office in Pretoria has been arrested on charges of corruption. The 54-year-old allegedly attempted to influence a police investigating officer in a case concerning a ward councillor in Limpopo in 2022. Negotiators trying to finalize a Gaza ceasefire deal in Qatar have indicated that an agreement is closer than ever. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met senior security officials to discuss the proposals. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at the markets, the rand is currently trading at 18 rand 90 to the dollar, 23 rand 11 to the pound, and 19 rand 48 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mainly weaker at the closing bell. The JSE mainly higher in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are mainly lower. Gold is trading at $2,682. Platinum $935 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $80.41 a barrel.
Owning a small or medium-sized business takes courage, skill, and determination. The Clientele Legal Business Plan is there to protect, guide, and assist your business in managing the legal risks. Let us handle your labor matters, employment contracts, CCMA referrals, and so much more. Our team of professional lawyers are standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 42770. That's SAFM to 42770. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
We continue the conversation on the talking point, and we're speaking to individuals that are contributing to schools, and this is really helping to meet the gap, right? And there's so many gaps that exist in our schooling systems, and not all of it is up to government to try and fix, not all of it, because government simply does not have the capacity to do everything. Jacob Madisha is the chairperson of the Bonelo Pele Community Development in Attridgeville. They provide meals, breakfast to school children every single morning in his area. They also pack them lunches. Zakes Manda is chair of the Nyeleti House based in Meadowlands. You heard they're planting gardens in schools in the area, but also donating then the products from those gardens to the feeding schools in the community to help them when it comes to the preparation of meals. Titimba is a social activist. He joins us on the line, amongst many other things. Titi, good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to all your listeners. Happy New Year. I think Happy New Year ends after the 15th of Feb, right?
You know what? It's an ongoing debate. The 7th, the 13th, the 15th. Some say until December, as long as you haven't seen the person.
Absolutely.
Titi, let's talk about this aspect of your life, right, when it comes to your involvement in schools and the need that you have seen and why you as an individual in your personal capacity have decided to get involved.
So I'm speaking on behalf of the Titimba Community Drive NPC, which really focuses on two pillars, which is education as well as social development. But more so on the school side, we help a lot of schools to renovate old, storerooms into libraries, because we believe that leaders read and readers lead. And so we've done quite well in terms of our expansion plans, in terms of taking and identifying those schools that really need a library within their facilities and converting those unused storerooms. But outside that, I also represent the Amatama Brotherhood Circle, which is a men's wellness network where we've got two pillars where we focus on the boy child and the girl child. So on the boy child side, we collect suits for matriculant boys who are underprivileged, for them to be able to attend their matric dance and look good and feel dignified as well. And then on the girl side, we've got the Amatama Pad Drive, where we really collect reusable sanitary pads for those underprivileged girls in townships, in rural areas, as well as in formal settlements. In fact, this morning we handed over about 300 reusable sanitary pads to these girls. These reusable sanitary pads will last them at least 5 years, because what we've noticed is that when we give them these sanitary pads, they don't last beyond a month, because there's the aunt, the mom, and the sister who wants to use those sanitary pads, and they end up running up. So we're actually setting them up for failure.
Titi, when you walk into a school or an area and you identify a need, what are the conversations that you have with the schools, and I'm assuming including with the surrounding community, around how to get involved or what to do to assist?
So we start off by having conversations with the community, because we also help some of the communities to renovate their homes, those that are in need of such. And through those conversations, we are able to identify those schools that really, really are in desperate need of help. And we then approach the school principal, and we have a conversation with the principal and the teachers, and we try to dig deep into the core issues that really affect the schools. And what we've found is that when it comes to the boy child, there's a different need versus the girl child, and that's why we've definitely decided to focus on the Amatama Pad Drive when it comes to the girl child, because the one thing that happens is that when the girl child goes to school, she gets bullied by the boy child when she goes through period pains or periods, because the boy child doesn't understand what really happens to a woman's body. And it's upon us as parents to also educate our sons about menstruation, and men, actually. We are working on a drive to educate men about menstruation, so that when the girl child goes through such, they don't have to feel shame about it. There is no shame in going through periods, because it's part of nature.
Jacob, I want to come back to you and ask you, there are many people who are either in their homes, in their offices, in their cars, listening to this conversation, and often we as individuals become our biggest stumbling block when it comes to how we can contribute, because we either think we don't know enough, or we don't have enough money, or whatever it is that we think might be of value that we can give. We're the first to discount it and say no, but it's not necessary. Stay in your corner. What would you say to people who are listening to this conversation and who do have that hunger to get involved or that desire to do more?
I'll definitely say mostly to the youth, because I know most of our youth is unemployed. I would say it doesn't matter what you have, it doesn't matter where you come from. As long as you have a dream, as long as you have an idea, please start. In order for you to be great, you must start. You don't have to be great to start. And in terms of them in contribution, we are one person who are very diversified in our project. Right now, we have high demands of school uniforms. If they are able to donate school shoes, because it has been raining for so many days, many of our demands that parents, they do not have school shoes, they do not have school uniforms. So we would very much appreciate if anyone, whether sitting in the car, in the offices, it doesn't matter. If it's secondary school clothes, if it's secondary school uniforms, as long as they are still good in good condition. Because we have a policy that whatever that we donate, make sure it's something that you can be able to wear yourself. Whatever food that you cook for people or distribute, make sure that is the food that you are able to eat yourself. So for us, donations of bread, because we deal with bread on a daily basis. We feed over 250 children, and now because it's a new year, we don't know if the number is going to rise or not. But for now, we would very much appreciate if anyone could contribute bread, maybe perhaps on a daily basis. Doesn't matter if it's 5 loaves, it's 2 loaves, it's 1 loaf, because it can go a long way. 1 loaf, we are able to feed close to 6 children. So within that 6 children, maybe there's a president, there's a lawyer, there's an artist who's hungry, or who can't go to school because they don't have school shoes, they don't have school uniform, or they are hungry. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Whatever small contribution they can be able to put our way so that we can continue making a difference, it will be highly appreciated. Our numbers, you can definitely contact us on 067 633 9233. We are on WhatsApp, but we prefer a direct call because we are on the ground most of the times. We work with our hands. So it's very difficult to be on your phone and also be on the ground. So we very much appreciate whatever little that they have. Also, if they have secondary clothes, because we are not only based in schools, we also do a lot of community outreach, because you find out that many of these parents are unemployed, so they can't be able to buy clothes for these children. So after school, these children, some of them, they play soccer. They cannot go and play soccer maybe with their school uniforms, with their school shoes, because that will also be a stumbling block. So if you have clothes that you know that they are still in good condition, doesn't matter that they are dirty, we are able to wash those clothes ourselves. But our main issue now is school uniform, so these kids can be settled, so these kids can be able to participate in class. So we can be able to improve the state of our community, the state of our economy. So doesn't matter whether you are in the office or whether you are home, you can be able to make a difference.
Okay, thank you for that, Jacob. Zakes, do you find that you have to spend a lot of time convincing people to get involved, convincing them to do something to help out?
Oh, yes, Cathy. We do really find that challenge as we do our work, that you find that there's a lack of even community support, even local businesses. But we are very thankful for those who actually come through and help us with the work that we do. So yes, it is a challenge to really
Oh, that line to Zakes, just sometimes it doesn't hold up very well. And, I wonder why it is a challenge for people to get involved and for people to contribute. Titi, I remember a time, and, in the last, maybe about from 7 years ago, when you used to have these big drives around school shoes, school uniforms, and it seemed to me that, there were those taking place in different parts of the country. But a lot of those initiatives seem to have just sort of died down, and the interest levels also just seem to no longer be there. What do you find as somebody who's an individual but also running this NPC? Because of course this is not work that one can do on their own.
You know, Cathy, the greatest challenge that we face as organizations that are trying to, uplift communities, the lack of it, especially when it comes to corporate. We really find it quite difficult to lobby them into understanding the impact, the social impact that it has if we don't do things at ground level, and I just think we've kind of lost that spirit of Ubuntu as a people. I remember a time when, I would, know that the father next door would be in a position to take me to school, to walk me to school. It's a little thing, to identify a child within a community that we know that the parents are not doing very well and can't afford it, and we tap in together as a community to help that. I think we've kind of lost all of that in transition because everyone is just looking out for themselves and their families and whoever is close to them. We need to bring back the spirit of Ubuntu. At the end of the day, Umuntu, ngumuntu ngabantu.
How do you think we can do that, Titi?
It starts at home, Cathy. It starts at home. The family unit is probably the strongest backbone of our country right now. So you find that a lot of, learners, are disruptive at school. But it's because it starts at home. It's how we start with our inculcation, ourselves in terms of educating our kids to be respectful, instilling those values, to say that we as a family live in this particular street and that street knows that in this family we contribute when there's a burial in our street. That obviously spreads out to the suburb you live in. It spreads out to the city you live in and eventually to the province you live in. We need to really go back to the basics and understand the importance and the critical need for us to have a very balanced family unit.
Yeah, and as you're speaking, Titi, I'm also thinking about how each of us needs to see ourselves as a key stakeholder with some of these institutions. So when the results come out and they're bad, we shout at government for not doing this and not doing that. But we don't see ourselves as stakeholders. We don't see ourselves as being part of the ecosystem and as potentially also having a role to play. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're an accountant, regardless of which profession you might find yourself in, you too can have a role to play in whichever community you find yourself in.
Absolutely, Cathy. I think we need to take accountability as parents as well and stop passing the buck onto the teachers every time there's an issue. When there's parents' evenings, half the parents don't even bother to attend because they just think that some of the parents will decide on my behalf. Why aren't you taking control over your child's future by being involved as a parent as well? When we have such a high scourge of bullying in schools, what are the parents of the bullies saying about that? Because no child is born a bully, just as much as no human being is born a racist. They are learning it somewhere at home to be able to bully other kids at school. I've had so many meetings with different parents at schools who are parents of bullies, and I've always asked myself, what is it about your child that gives them the right to think that they can overpower other kids in school? It starts at home. Because the kids are observing what happens at home, and they think it's okay to take it outside the home environment.
Titi, let me thank you so much for your contribution to this conversation. Let me invite then onto the show Sir Max. He is a motivational speaker and also refers to himself as a knowledgepreneur. Sir Max, what is a knowledgepreneur?
Good morning to you, Cathy. A knowledgepreneur is a knowledge merchant. In other words, I trade with knowledge. In the knowledge economy, knowledge is the key commodity. So that's what I mean when you say a knowledgepreneur, because I'm a knowledge merchant.
And let's talk about the work that you are doing in schools.
Yeah. I have taken it upon myself, Cathy. Every year I've got a program that I call 20 schools in 20 days. In other words, every year when the year begins, I go to schools to go inspire, to go encourage, because my background as a kid I know there are many kids who are going through what I went through myself. I lost both my parents at the age of 12. My father died in a car accident. My mother burnt herself in a house. I was a street kid at 13. So I know that there are kids who may be going through what I go through. That is why I go back to school, to go and plant that seed, to tell them that your background does not determine what you are going to become in your life. But most importantly, I like what the previous speaker said, TT, I didn't get the name right, to say our society, as a society, we have lost the plot from a family level. These kids come from disintegrated families. They come from disgruntled families. That is why interventions like this play a very significant role in shaping the minds of these kids. That is why I do what I do.
We're going to continue the conversation shortly. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm back with Sir Max, and then we'll round up with Jacob and Zakes.
To all our esteemed educators, a warm welcome back to school for the year 2025 calendar year. SACE, your professional regulatory body, wishes you an incredible and successful year ahead. Thank you for achieving quality, outstanding 2024 results across all school grades. Continue to inspire a credible and agile teaching profession in and outside your school environment. Your worth and dignity are valued.
VfB Stuttgart are strategizing on how to secure a dignified top half position, while RB Leipzig are aware of how crucial victory will be for them to rise higher. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch VfB Stuttgart versus RB Leipzig on Wednesday, 15 January at 9:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point. It's about getting involved, right? Those that are actively contributing to our schooling ecosystem and helping to fill in some of the gaps that exist. So Max, as you heard him earlier, is a motivational speaker, somebody who gives himself time to go and motivate young kids in schools. He says 20 days, 20 schools is what he aims to do. So Max, as you speak to young people in schools, especially around motivating them, inspiring them for the future, and just giving them that hope to do well in school, what do you find that the challenge that they face often, or the challenges that they're facing often are?
Yeah, one of the greatest challenges, Cathy, is it's family, to be honest, because we are doing the work that the parents should be doing, but they do not have parents. They do not have someone to support them. There are still kids, even today, whom the people who stay with don't see the need why these kids should study, because they don't have enough role models. Where in a village or in a township, you've got kids that are competing with having kids. So there's no one who's inspiring them. In fact, they're discouraged by the same people that they stay with. So they do not know how to dream. They do not know that it is possible. So I'm attributing that to lack of a proper family system, which is the most important thing. The second thing is identity. These kids don't know who they are. For the first time you get to a school, you speak to them. You speak and show them a sense of purpose, that in life you have purpose. Social media has taken over. New media has taken over. The only form of identity that they identify with is coming from social media, which is a hybrid situation, which is fake, which is not true. So they are going to struggle to find themselves, to say who they are. So going there, I realized that this kids' identity, sense of purpose, but family, the influence of family, is actually one of the debilitating challenges that they are facing.
And it's also one of the difficult spaces for schools to try and influence, because it's, number one, not on school property. It's not in the hands of teachers or principals. So what is it that you think we can do, even as families, perhaps, to better support children in school and to not have this burden that is seemingly there? Because as you're speaking, Sir Max, I'm recalling a conversation we had, and we were speaking to those that are recovering addicts, and they were young people as well. And they said what drove them to substance abuse is what is happening in their families. All of them said that it was due to the pressure, to the difficulties that they were experiencing in their families.
Yeah. We have to go back to the basics, Cathy. Our society is a mess. We need to go back as a society and define our values as a society. Where I live next to a school. You listen to the conversations that these kids have. They're not aware that I'm listening sometimes, but you just overhear what these kids are talking about. The behavior that they're projecting, it's actually coming from where they come from. So I'm saying, as a society, we need to have a national agenda. A national agenda is what are the values, what we value most as a society. These kids do not fall from the heavens, from the sky. We give birth to these kids. We raise these kids. We instill a sense of morality, a sense of living from these kids. So if we don't get it right from the back, from the society level, there's no way we're going to get it at a school level. In fact, there's nothing wrong with these kids, Cathy. There's a problem with the parents. There's a problem with us as a society. These kids are just a reflection of how bad we have become as a society. If we go back and say, what are our values? What do we want to do? These kids relate with the educators the way they relate with their parents. These kids respond to the educators the way they relate with where they are coming from. So we need to go back and have a national agenda. I think when I get to school, when you are in a school, you are a teacher, and you've got kids who don't have a sense of purpose. 40% of the time that the educator was supposed to be using for teaching and learning, 40% of that time is lost in addressing cases of correctional services, cases of police, cases of psychology, cases of social work. So 40% of the time that was supposed to be for teaching and learning, it has been lost because we are not doing things right from home.
Sure. Thank you for that contribution, Sir Max. And I think it's something that we all need to think about quite deeply and see how we respond, whether it's from within the family structure or from beyond it. I want to play this voice note that's come in for you, Zakes.
Yes, thanks.
Morning, Cathy and the listeners. This is Magdalene from Bloom. That is Zakes. I'm happy for you to be able to can break through the red tapes of education in the schools with food gardening, because that is the song I've been singing since Ndate Teach Makwe was the MEC in Free State. I saw the need and the potential that we should make use of the school premises whereby a lot of land is available, and the church premises, even the corners which are dumping sites for food gardening. But unfortunately, to the deaf, yes, make the problem. Thank you.
Yeah, and Zakes, I guess it's a question around how to get it right and being allowed in the schools, and where one is not allowed to do it in schools, what are the other ways in which we can still support?
Thanks so much, Cathy, and thanks for the listener for the positive feedback. Really, it starts with self. I think it starts with self. You gotta care. You have to care, and you have to live your life with purpose, and you have to live your life with a sense of contributing to humankind. So that's where it starts. But really, our approach was that we engaged so many schools before we were allowed to actually have a food garden at Thembalethu primary schools. So the procedure really was just to engage the school as well as the school governing body. We have an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding in terms of what we need to do at the schools and the length of the actual agreement in terms of how long are we supposed to be there. So it really started there. And then, yes, then we started the community garden at Tembalete Primary School. But Cathy, this expands even further to say, as a community, we can also do our own backyard gardens. So as the year is starting, we're going to go on a massive campaign in terms of promoting backyard farming, which is an important element so that we can be able to grow our own or some of the vegetables on our own, so that we can be able this will help us with combating the high food prices and the rising cost of food itself. So really, Cathy, it starts there. You have to care.
Thank you for that contribution, Zakes. Jacob, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, your last parting shot.
Thank you again for the platform. I would like to advise the youth. We have a high unemployment rate. Like I said, people shouldn't discourage you that your idea, whatever idea that you have, is stupid. Right now, doesn't matter what you have resources or you don't have material. The best thing is to start. Again, you don't have to be great to start, but in order to be great, you must start. Thank you once more.
Thank you so much, Jacob, Zakes, TT, Cermax. Appreciate all of your contributions this morning. Well, it's 11 o'clock. Time for the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. In the news, top stories at 11. Suspects in AKA murder case denied bail, and Israel-Hamas deal for Gaza in final stages. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. 2 of the 5 men accused of the murder of rapper Keenan, a.k.a. Forbes, and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane have been denied bail by the Durban Magistrate Court. Forbes and Mutswane were gunned down outside a restaurant in Durban in 2023. Last week, Mzwe Themba Gwabeni and Lindoku Hlendimande brought a new bail application based on what their legal representatives said were new facts. Gwabeni is alleged to be the mastermind behind the killings. All 5 accused were denied bail in May last year following their arrest in February of that year. President Cyril Ramaphosa has arrived in Maputo, Mozambique, to attend the inauguration of President-elect Daniel Chapo. Chapo won the elections, which were held in October last year. Ditaba Tsotetse reports.
In a statement, the presidency says that the inauguration of President-elect Daniel Chapo provides an opportunity for all the people of Mozambique to work together towards peace, democracy and development. President Cyril Ramaphosa is looking forward to working closely with Chapo in further strengthening the existing relations between the two countries. It says that the president hopes to see Mozambicans unite with the aim of building their country. President Ramaphosa is accompanied by Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Ronald Lamola and Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. Ditaba Tsotetse, SABC News.
All the 2 main opposition parties are boycotting the ceremony because they believe that the election was stolen. The opposition presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane has urged his supporters to paralyze Mozambique with protests.
This regime doesn't want peace. And if they don't want peace, it means we will not back down. It means this term, if necessary, will be filled with protests. 365 days a year. We will protest every single day. And faced with our protest, let's see how they plan to govern.
A senior Hawks officer stationed at the head office in Pretoria has been arrested on charges of corruption. The 54-year-old allegedly attempted to influence a police investigating officer in a case concerning a ward councillor in Limpopo in 2022. Hawks spokesperson Cathy Mohlahlana says the suspect approached the police officer and allegedly requested assistance in helping the councillor who was facing a criminal investigation. Mohlahlana says the police officer was allegedly promised tenders and future favours in exchange for his assistance.
The Hawks remain committed to upholding the law and maintaining the highest standards of integrity and accountability. No one, regardless of their position or rank within the Directorate, will be allowed to undermine our core values or the trust the public places upon us. Corruption in any form will not be tolerated within our ranks, no matter the seniority or position of the individual involved. The Hawks will continue to fight crime with the utmost integrity and professionalism, ensuring that those who breach our ethical standards are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
Anxious and frustrated parents are queuing at the Johannesburg Central District offices in Pimville, Soweto, to have their children placed in schools. Some say they did apply on time through the Gauteng Education's online admission system for grade 1 and 8. The department says over 300,000 learners have been placed. However, it is yet to indicate how many remain. Julia Nzamba, a parent of a grade 8 learner, said she applied online last year, but her child was not placed and is now on the waiting list. Negotiations trying to finalize Gaza ceasefire deal in Qatar have indicated that an agreement is closer than ever. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met senior security officials to discuss the proposals. An announcement is expected in the coming days, but mediators are warning that it could still go wrong. And recapping the top story, 2 of the 5 men accused of the murder of rapper Keenan, aka Forbes, and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane have been denied bail by the Durban Magistrate Court. I am on the Lambada SAFM News headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Abafana West 10 and the Rockets are both looking for a decent spot in the top half. They are all confident they will walk away from the battlefield with jubilance. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch the great passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows FC takes on TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 18 January, live on SABC 1 at 2:30 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is closing on the 3rd of February 2025. Explore the theatre of the mind and write your 60-minute radio drama play and email it before 5 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Happy New Year, South Africa! SAFM wishes you a prosperous and joyful 2025. As we step into a new year of possibilities, we're here, leading the conversations that move us. Thank you for being part of the SAFM family. Here's to making 2025 a year to remember. Together, SAFM, leading the conversations that move us in 2025.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
After 11 o'clock, welcome to the third and final hour of the show. Coming up within this hour, we're focusing on the Northern Cape in terms of its performance, the matric results, of course, being out. And with this particular province, I guess in this year might be a bit bittersweet for the Northern Cape. They certainly have had a tremendous improvement since 2023. They've pushed up the pass rate from 75.8% in 2023 to 84.2% in 2024. So that really is quite an improvement for the province. However, it still leaves them last in terms of the rankings nationally when it comes to where they stand with those results. Well, joining us then to speak about the state of education in the Northern Cape province, we're joined by Ricky Willemse, the director for the FET curriculum in the Northern Cape Department of Basic Education. Ricky, good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning to the listeners.
Margaret van Wyk is with Isbindi Ezikoleni Provincial Project Coordinator in the Northern Cape. Margaret, good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Ricky. Good morning to the listeners.
And Michael Sintletse is Director of GM Sintletse Foundation. Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, ma'am, and good morning, Ricky, and good morning, Margaret, and the listeners.
So, Ricky, maybe just an opportunity for you to reflect on the performance of your province for 2024, at least through the lens of these matric results.
Yes, Cathy, we are very pleased with the results. Of course, when you do a deeper analysis of the results, a lot of information actually comes out. But in particular, what has happened over the last 3 years is that we have reduced the gap from where we performed in 2022 and in comparison to the province that is ranked first in the country. That gap has significantly decreased over the last 3 years. If you look at the 2023 pass rate for individual provinces, you would also see that the gap closed from 2022 to 2023, and we are almost performing in line with the rest of the country. In fact, just a few percentage points and we would have not been last in the country in 2025. The result, of course, is, like I said, is we are pleased with it. We think the learners performed very well. But we realize that there are areas that we definitely have to zoom in and focus in more in 2025. In particular, what we have done, what we did in 2024 was that we ran a survey and we tested a few learners and a subset of the cohort, and what we then realized is that mostly the learners in the Northern Cape are visual learners, and so we have migrated our practices to include more of your ICT and enablers for learners to then have this visual experience through the provisioning of tablets, live broadcasts from Johannesburg where we beam lessons, and then also creating video repositories and other things as well. So looking at the results, I think we are pleased, but there is some room for improvement, and we just have to build on these things that we have come to realize will take us further, and we'll make further inroads, and we will catch up with the other provinces as well. Of course, we are the most improved province, it's not by mistake or accident. We designed particular programs to enable us to perform better, and we will certainly build on those programs as well. In particular, we have drawn in a number of expert teachers last year to support learners offering new subjects in particular as well. Like I said, we provided ICT resources, among other things, and there are a number of other programs that we instituted, and we certainly reap the benefit of that.
Okay.
It's just for us to strengthen this moving forward.
Okay. Thanks for that contribution, Ricky. Margaret, let me bring you in because, yes, absolutely, the improvement is to be commended. It is to be acknowledged. But as Ricky is saying, when we begin to look a little bit closely at what these numbers are also showing us. So if we look perhaps at subjects like mathematics, we see there that the pass rate for maths in the province is sitting at 56.4%. We look at the pass rate for science, that's sitting at 69.4%. So there are these areas of improvement that are glaring. As somebody who works with schools in the province, where would you say some of the biggest challenges that the schooling system there faces are?
I would say the schools face challenges where children actually are exposed to different learning disabilities, and actually do not assist the children to achieve in school. And the resources are mostly needed in school to enable learners to progress in school. And some of those resources that are needed are programs that provide that psychosocial support as well as that family and community interventions in schools to prevent learners from the psychosocial ills that they experience in schools. So in terms of what we as Isibili Sukuleni are doing, we are trying to bridge that gap between, the curriculum challenges that the learners are facing, as well as the social that the learners are facing, by engaging individually with learners, do an assessment of learners, as well as providing their support and care. And despite all their challenges, the child and youth care workers that have been employed, which are professional, trained child and youth care workers, they are qualified, so they contribute towards the excellent performance of learners. If I can make mention of Louis Fontaine, who never had 100% pass rate. But this year, through the intervention and through the relationship with the educators, the school were able to achieve 100%.
Margaret, I want you to expand on something you said earlier. You said you believe one of the challenges is because learners are exposed to learning disabilities. Explain that for me, please. What is happening?
Okay. Through our engagement with learners, we identified that learners do experience cognitive as well as emotional challenges that do not, provide that learners with the necessary skills and support to enable or to engage in the daily learning process. And also because of the virtual disability that children have, that is also a challenge. Like, we identify that children cannot see properly when they're in school because they don't have the necessary eye care in some communities. And through our engagement, we help children to engage with the Department of Health to get the necessary eye care support, as well as the cognitive stimulation through the programs that we provide and the life skills program that we provide to enable learners to cope with any emotional or physical disabilities or physical challenges that they experience in schools.
Ricky, does this come back to why you say that you as a department have identified that most of your learners are visual learners? And maybe expand more on that for us, please.
Yeah, what we identified that, learners, like I said earlier, they struggle to see, on the writing board. Some of them have eye challenges. They cannot actually cope very well, especially in the dry atmosphere of the Northern Cape, and they need that special eye care. And some of the learners also, in terms of cognitive functioning, they also need, that virtual learning aids that can enable them to understand, the curriculum more effectively. Having cards available, teaching children how to count with virtual aids, taking them out in the garden to help them to identify and to count also practically, how to engage with the curriculum.
Ricky, let me come back to you because this is an issue I want you to speak on as the Department of Education. And as I was saying earlier, you had mentioned that as a province, you have, discovered that most of your learners do better visually. And I want you to explain what you meant by that earlier in the context of what Margaret is saying.
Okay, so what we found was that as soon as the learners are exposed to a live broadcast like we do with our literature drama performances, the recall and comprehension of what they see and the recall of that knowledge is much better than just having a paper sort of exercise on that particular drama features. So we have then done a number of things to leverage on that. In particular, like I said, we would rather than have live drama performances than only have textbooks available for learners to explore particular genres and novels and literature works. Then also, what we've done is we've given grade 12 learners tablets with high quality software with high quality visuals, 2D and 3D animations, experiments, and of course question papers as well. And I think that also assisted in a big way for us to perform at the level that we did. But finally, I think that what also contributed largely to the increase is the provisioning of a minimum content booklet with high quality visuals, focusing on lower difficulty levels of heavily weighted NSC content. So if you look at all of these things, they've got a lot of visuals built into them. They are very interactive, and the focus is directed to heavily weighted high-value NSC content in particular. So for us, it was to leverage on this aspect of learners being visually inclined, visual learners, and then direct support programs to leverage on that, and that's exactly what we did in 2024.
Ricky, I'm listening to you, and I've heard also what Margaret has had to say, and I'm still not able to fully pin down, because it does sound to me that there is a bigger issue that you're dealing with in the Northern Cape around learning and how learning takes place. And have you done any studies to try and understand or figure out what is behind this? Because from what you're saying that the majority of learners in your province actually learn differently to perhaps what it would be in other parts of the country. So you have to make all of these additionals or adjustments to the curriculum so that you're able to accommodate the way in which they learn.
I think the role that the management has played as well, has played a role in motivating teachers, like the MEC going around schools and motivating teachers to, and the HUD as well, even the Premier and the other MECs. And what that has resulted in is that you now have a workforce that is more excited about achieving outcomes that is of a high standard, high quality. And I think also is that there is a lot of more effort going into preparations and preparing for teaching. And a lot more effort is then made in terms of exposing learners to different learning styles and etc. But in the main, what we found is that for the weaker learners, remember it's not all the learners, for the weaker learners, they absorb content more easily if they don't only hear it but then also see it. In particular, for us, we had the experience that if they then are then exposed to visuals, they remember much better than just hearing it from the teacher. But I think throughout our studies in education, I mean, that is obvious that it should be happening, and that's exactly what we found. Of course, when I say our learners are more inclined towards visual learning, it's not for all learners. There are different learning styles, of course, and the learners have different learning experiences. But in particular, for your weaker learner in the Northern Cape, when they see what is happening, they see the experiment happening, they recall it better, and they're able to then provide information better. I think that would be an input from my side.
Michael, let me ask you to come in and perhaps give us your own sort of reflections working in the Northern Cape and again being exposed to what some of the difficulties and challenges in the schooling system might be.
Thank you very much, ma'am. For one, we first need to look at the school structure itself. How is it structured? And then secondly, we look at our teachers, how they behave around the learners. Because what we have seen that, even teachers, sometimes they can have these infights, but not observing that someone is watching you. And as much as you have these infights, they have a negative impact on the learning of the learners, because in the end, they suffer the most. Rather than instead of working as a collective and being able to put that effort in, with the results that we have achieved, we believe that we can achieve much better results if only we can conduct ourselves in a better way. Secondly, we also look at the learners themselves, how they choose their subjects. You will find that, some learners, they only choose mathematics because of my friend has chosen mathematics. And we are not doing a deep analysis of ourselves to say, let me look at my strong points. Which subjects am I strong at? And how do I align myself with the subject that I'm strong in? Because you could easily see from your, foundation phase as you come through and then going to high school, you analyze your own performance to see that where am I strong? I can't take mathematics if I know that I am weak in mathematics, but rather leave the subjects like geography, history, where I am strong enough. As much as we push to say that learners must take, mathematics and physical science, but we look at the strength of the learner. Where are you strong? Because don't just take a subject that you are not strong at, because it will have a negative impact in your performance also. Because what we have done as an organization, we have started a program that is called the Geography Festival, where we take in learners who are doing geography and then engage with them with the curriculum that they are doing, so that they can understand the subject much better and be able to improve the performance of their academics in the subject. So it has worked very well for the past 4 years that we've been doing this. We've been seeing a magnificent increase in what learners are doing, because geography is being combined with all these subjects. But now, not all of us are strong enough in mathematics and physics, but we need also to look at which subjects are we strong at, so that we are able to fix this. When I choose a subject, let me choose it based on my strength.
We're in conversation with the officials from the Department of Basic Education in the Northern Cape, Ricky Willemse. He's the director for the FET curriculum in the province. We're also speaking to NGOs that do work within the schooling system to try and better understand some of the challenges that the province is facing that result in the kind of outcomes that we see. Margaret van Wyk is with Isibindi Ezukolweni, Provincial Project Coordinator in the Northern Cape, and Michael Sintleze is the Director of GM Sintleze Foundation. So you have an improved pass rate, undoubtedly so, but you do still have all of these issues bubbling over. When we continue, we'll focus on the socio-economic issues that the province is facing that also contributes to the kind of results that we are seeing coming out of the Northern Cape, and also find out then what are the efforts that are being made to address those issues in particular. You're listening to The Talking Point. It's 11:30, time for your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. In the news headlines, 2 of the 5 men accused of the murder of rapper Keenan, a.k.a. Forbes, and his friend Dibelo Dibbs Mutswane have been denied bail by the Durban Magistrates Court. Police are investigating after a security guard was found dead at primary school in Hercules in Pretoria this morning. Police say an employee at the school have arrived this morning to find the deceased lying on the ground with a wound to his head. And Iranian president has warned President-elect Donald Trump against risking war with his country. And he says he hopes that Trump will promote peace in the Middle East and the world in general. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top 4. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Bees want to be all over the pitch and keep the 3 points on home ground.
It could be tied to Brentford. There's wishes in here. Brentford have got 5 goals at St Mary's.
Meanwhile, the Reds want to emphasize that they will never walk alone, but with victory.
Lovely ball. Gakpo. Goal! Brilliant as well, as ever, from Cody Gakpo.
This is the Premier League, striving for excellence. Experience the glittering encounter between Brentford FC and Liverpool FC on Saturday, 18 January at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC 3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Hi, Cathy. Good morning, Mafuta. Yeah, Cathy, my contribution is directed to Margaret. The Department of Education in the Northern Cape is not performing well because I think one contributing factor is that learners are not attending school regularly as they expected. And as well as dropouts from schools. due to various reasons. You know, Cathy, communities in Northern Cape are mainly agricultural and mining. So there are so many factors that affect those type of communities, like pregnancy, like drug abuse, Cathy. The department should look into that. Particularly, Cathy, a school in a place called Griquastad. There's a building there adjacent to the secondary school, the only secondary school, in fact, Cathy. I always see students or learners just roaming around, not attending school. The department should look into those areas, Cathy.
Hi, Cathy. Kathy, when is the department going to start concentrating on making sure that the kids choose good subjects according to their knowledge and their expertise, according to what they want to become, and not choose subjects for the sake of them to be able to pass and finish matric and come and sit at home, because all they concentrate on is that the kids pass. But what's the use of passing the geographies and histories while the child or a pupil is electronically minded? He wants to follow the electronics path, but he doesn't have mathematics, he doesn't have physical science, or whatsoever subject relates to that. Tumelo from Tumaoli.
Yeah, thank you for those questions and contributions from our listeners. Ricky, let me maybe give you a chance to respond to those before I bring in some of our callers on this topic as well. Do you think that part of what would assist would be perhaps re-looking at the curriculum offering for learners in the province? Do you think that would assist?
I think there's a lot of opportunity for learners to enroll in the courses that they would be more comfortable with. We do have a variety of a number of focus schools that provide specialized services. For example, if you are struggling with maths and you would want to then offer something different than maths and not necessarily maths literacy, you could easily enroll in one of our technical schools where they offer technical maths, which of course included in the structure of the assessment, you do have a practical assessment task, which is done at the level of the school, which means that there's a big opportunity for learners to then master the content because it's done internally rather than in a question paper set externally. It's more hands-on, there's more guidance in learners to perform better in the practical assessment tasks. As an example, there are other subjects as well and specializations like electrical, mechanical, civil technology, mechanical technology, and of course their learners then have the option to choose between maths and technical maths or physical sciences and technical sciences. Like I said, for these offerings, there are a practical component built into the assessment which then makes it easier for learners to then achieve it at much higher levels as well. Then we have other focus schools as well, of course. We have agricultural focus schools where learners can offer agricultural subjects like agricultural technology, agricultural science as well, as for example, and some of these subjects also have a practical assessment component, which then makes it easier for learners to then master the content because teachers are supported and trained on the mediation of the practical assessment tasks, which means they have sound knowledge as to how learners should then conduct these practical assessments, and learners then also generally perform better because of the higher marks in the practical assessment task. So there are the opportunities. It is just that generally in the broader community, people still seem to think, and it is most probably so that you will get nowhere without your maths and pure science. But there are so many other alternatives and areas that learners can specialize in and prepare themselves better for the future.
Okay. Thanks for that, Ricky. I want to bring in Mzwandile in Gqeberha. Mzwandile, good morning.
Morning, Cathy. I must tell you, I'm very concerned. Let's just look at the national statistics first. If at grade 1, if you've got 100 learners enrolling there, by the time they get to matric, there's only 40 left. So the question we must first ask is, what happened to the 60? Secondly, of that 40 in matric, only 12 will qualify to go on to tertiary education. So I'm saying we're looking at this thing, not looking at the entire value chain. And the first question which we must pose there is, what happens to those that are missing in that entire value chain? That is where the concentration must be. We are pushing the pass rate here. That's where the concentration is, but that's not where the concentration should be. Secondly, the issue here is not so much who of these students passes and who do not. The issue we are having is out of 100 learners, not all of them are academically inclined, meaning that our offering must change. I hear your panelists there talking about technical schools. How many technical schools are there in that province compared to the rest of the schools? Because here I'm in Gqeberha, a city. I only know of 2 technical schools. So what I'm saying is, it's not even the technical schools that we are needing. We need to cater for those who do not have the academic capabilities. And how do we cater for them? You introduce a skills-based education that does not necessarily require those high IQs, but the child can leave the school skilled. What do I mean by skilled? Bricklayers. You need boiler makers. You need people that can work in construction. Those are the soft skills that we are needing, so that even if the child drops out before they get to matric, but at least they've got a skill where they can find employment. That is where we should be concentrating, so that those who have got the intelligentsia and that high academic performance can then go on through to varsity. Our concentration is on that elite, which we do not have. So I'm therefore trying to say in summary, Cathy, that our schooling system is very one-sided. It actually reinforces apartheid, which is, it leads to our kids dropping out, and those who drop out do not have anything that they can fall back on. We must have a diversified academic system. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mzwandile. I couldn't agree with you more. And for a province like the Northern Cape, it sounds like that is exactly what they would need. Margaret, speak to me about some of the social challenges that you faced within the province, and how some of those also affect schooling and learning.
Okay. So there are many contributing factors, that have an impact on children's learning ability in schools. And some of them are that, children are experiencing neglect and abuse, children are bullied, children doesn't have enough support from parents, especially when it comes to, learning and teaching. Because some of the parents are not skilled, to assist learners with homework and to actually enable them also to learn. And especially in terms of own development, children need that support and they need that stimulation. So in terms of what we do, we provide individual services. We actually provide life space work, life space counseling. We also provide that individual learning support through homework supervision and study groups. And also we provide life skills for children. So it's important to also understand why children do experience learning challenges at school. Because sometimes it is just not that they cannot read and write or they're not able to understand the curriculum. But sometimes there are various contributing factors that disable them from learning. And that needs to be established at an early age through school assessment and school referrals. So, say for instance, if a child has fetal alcohol syndrome and the child cannot cope in a normal learning environment, or the child has other learning disability, then that child needs to be sent at the early age already to a special school. And that is the challenges that we have, especially here in the Northern Cape, that we do not have enough special schools to address the needs to children that need at special schools. And also in terms of skills development, children that are not able to function or to excel cognitively, they can work well with, the hands and doing some other skills work. So that is also an area that we look into.
All right.
So with our work, we are trying to engage with the learner. We try to identify the barriers of the learner, and then we do referrals. We also assist the learners with subject choices, where we have career expos, where learners at the early age, as from grade 8 already, or grade 7 already, can understand which subjects that they have to choose in terms of to follow a specific career that they want to embark in.
Margaret?
And then, yes?
Let me pause you there, because we are running out of time, and I want to give Michael an opportunity to come in as well. But I think that you've really been able to elaborate so well on some of the issues that you are seeing. Michael, let me give you the last word here.
Yes, Cathy. What the last speaker has just said, it's true. But when you look at our province, we are faced with a high pregnancy and substance use and school violence, where we need also to be able to eradicate the bad elements in the school, where especially where you find, some of the learners, you will find that because of Northern Cape, it's a mining area where other people are coming from outside, and then when they go to these places, you will find that there is no income in the house. So the child will opt to become the breadwinner in the house. And a lot of our parents have passed on, so most of the houses are child-headed households, whereby there is not enough support to be able to support these children, whereby one sibling must look after the younger ones. And then as much as I go to school, and then after school, I need still to provide and be a parent to my siblings. So it's one of the elements that we need also to eradicate, and also looking at the substance use. Why do we fall into substance use? Is it because of lack of belonging, or we are not getting enough support? But for us, what we do, we always push a program that is called the Change Champions, where we bring in young people, especially from the school environment, and capacitate them and empower them on skills to change their lifestyle, to be able to show them that you can't be a victim of circumstances.
I think that this conversation has really been enlightening in terms of trying to fully understand what is feeding into what we ultimately see as matric results, but really helping us understand some of the other things that are contributing to the challenges that our schooling system faces, especially in a province like the Northern Cape. I think it's certainly something that at some point we need to come back to, and also get some educational experts on. How do you deal with some of these problems, especially on such a large scale, that they would affect a significant part of the population in the province? But that's where we leave it for today on The Talking Point. We're completely out of time for the conversation. Up next is the book reading. The show, of course, back with you tomorrow between 9 and midday.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top 4. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of the book These Things Really Do Happen to Me by Kaya Dlang, read by Lerato Mvelase.
The toddler who was left alone continues. The next morning, which was a Sunday, I was woken up by the sound of a baby crying. I was immensely irritated. The child was in the room right next to mine. Her mom was obviously in the kitchen or outside in the garden where she could not hear the baby. But I was certain Aunt Frida was nearby and would go help. The toddler kept crying. I suddenly noticed that I could not hear any movement in the house. The TV was not on. No one was walking on the wooden floors. I started to listen intently. There was no way this baby was left alone. That simply didn't make any sense. I waited for a while to make sure. But the sound of the toddler crying was too piercing for no one to hear, even if they were outside. I peeled my blankets off, hoping I would bump into someone on their way to the room. Nothing of the sort happened. The wailing got louder and louder as I approached the door. I knocked on the door several times, and there was no answer. What if something had happened to her mother? I opened the door to find the child crying all by herself, and I was greeted by the pungent, unappealing stench of urine. I rushed to Auntie Frida's room. Maybe this is how they teach their children independence, I thought to myself. Sometimes when you are confused by something that does not make sense, you start making up your own reasons, even if they do not make sense either. You don't want to assume the worst of people. There was no one in Aunt Frida's room. I knew she wasn't at church because she never went to church. I did. The child had not stopped crying, and I went back to her. I felt my eyes well up. I removed the waterproof cover around the cloth nappy and then took off the reeking nappy. The stench of the unchanged diaper was overpowering. The waterproof cover had done its job and retained the urine, leaving the bed spotless. But the skin around the child's groin had begun to discolor, forming a rash, because she had obviously not been changed all night. Then I wondered if she had even been fed for her to have only pee and nothing more. It didn't make sense because babies are masters of pooping. I concluded that she had not eaten at all last night. I took a nappy to the bathroom, put some bath water in a bucket and left it in the water. Then I rummaged through the baby's bag and found other items of clothing and nappies. I bathed her because there was no way she was comfortable. She was crying the whole time. We both were. My tears were of horror, anger, and sorrow for the child. How often was she left alone like this? I was now convinced it happened often. After the bath, I moisturized, dressed, and fed her. She was eating in between sobs. She never turned her face away from the spoon once, as babies sometimes do. Eventually, she stopped crying. I then played with her, trying to make her smile and laugh and forget what she had been crying about. I did not forget that I was angry, that I was judging her mother. I was done trying to find reasons why she might have left her child all night. All that was left was judgmental anger. The years of raising my siblings, Sikulo and Ganga, paid off that day. In black families, it takes your older children to raise your younger ones, not a village. I knew exactly what to do because my mother had made sure that it was not the job of a girl to look after children. It wasn't just my sister Sigelelo's job or Nomvuyiso's, our cousin. It was mine too. And I was better at taking care of younger siblings than all the girls at home. The morning passed to afternoon with no sign of the toddler's mother or Aunt Frida. I put her on my back and wrapped her in a towel like I had done hundreds of times with my siblings and various cousins, and she fell asleep. Aunt Frida arrived back later in the afternoon. She had no idea that her niece had left in the night and abandoned her child. She was furious and started shouting, taking the toddler from me. When her niece got back from wherever she was hardly sober. I walked out of the living room without even looking at her. I felt both angry and guilty. I could not understand how it was possible to leave a child on her own for so long. Was this something her mother did all the time? I had an overwhelming sense of helplessness. My siblings had always been looked after. I had looked after them, even when I was irritated by it, when I could have been reading or playing. I had also always been looked after. I felt so fortunate never to have had to go through something like this. Every now and then, I find myself wondering how that little girl turned out. When I was Jesus zoned. What is the Jesus zone, you ask? Well, I have been a victim and I live to tell the tale, mercifully. Consider this confessions of the Jesus zoned, if you will. Being Jesus zoned is even more difficult than what has been termed the friend zone. For those who might not have known what it is, allow me to educate you. You, as a guy or a woman, find yourself in the friend zone when you're romantically interested in someone, but the object of your affection makes it clear that you are just friends. It is a notoriously difficult area to escape. It is like the mafia. Once you're in, you can never get out. I'm yet to meet someone who has braved the Jesus zone and ever made it out there. Let me tell you the tragic tale of my colossal battle with Christ. Needless to say, I lost. I still want to have a word with him when I get to heaven. I hope he doesn't make sure I am left outside the club, trying to get bouncer St. Peter to let me in. There are few things in life more discouraging than asking someone out, and then they give you the, "I'm sorry, I can't go out with you because I found Jesus" line. As if Jesus was lost, hungry, dirty, homeless, and malnourished. And now that she has found him, he needs her to look after him until he is nursed back to health. Or when they say, "I'm trying to get my relationship with Jesus in order first," I think that an honest dude, "I don't want to go out with you," will do. It bruises the ego, but at least it's honest. I, Kaya Zanga, believe it or not, once got the Jesus line. There was a young woman I went to church with. She had beautiful dark skin and an incredibly positive outlook on life. She could even outsmile me. No small feat. Once when I was in high school, a girl walked past me and asked with a disapproving tone, "Why are you always smiling?" As if I had somehow offended her. I didn't even know I was smiling when she said that to me. I became very self-conscious and tried to stop smiling as much. But a few days later, I had forgotten and I was back to smiling again. Anyway, I had told my friend, Mahle Gwababa, about this girl I liked. We lived in the same house. He knew I liked this woman a lot, and I had decided that Friday night would be the night I asked her out. He drove me to her place and I texted her, letting her know I was on my way to see her. As I got out of Mahle's red City Golf, he turned to me to say, "Chap, even if she turns you down, that door will still be open for you." In the most serious tone. We both laughed our lungs out. Perhaps I laughed more than I should have because of a great deal of nervousness. I walked towards the res and noticed she was already waiting for me. I was so pleased to see her enthusiasm. She's going to be so thrilled when I ask her out, I thought. She gave me one of her strong, warm hugs. My heart was pounding. We sat on the wall outside her res at UCT. We engaged in some small talk for a bit. She had just decided to join the praise and worship team at church, she said. I congratulated her. In a bid to show her that I, too, was a serious Christian, I mentioned that I had just been made deputy cell group leader. I then could not wait anymore, so I decided to just blurt it out. "I wanted to tell you now because I like you, and I just didn't know when to say it because there's never a right time to say something like this." I don't know where those lines came from, but today they feel like they could come out of some cheesy teen rom-com. I have no idea what else I said, but I'm pretty sure I couldn't help myself and just rambled on. At some point, I told myself to shut up. She was looking down. I couldn't tell whether she was shocked because she never saw it coming, or because she was trying to contain her excitement about being asked out by the great, short Kaya Zanga. There was silence for too many seconds to count. My heart was doing backflips. I can't right now, she said, while looking at her feet. She did not want to see my heart break. What do you mean, right now? I asked after a few seconds, because I didn't know what she meant. Did right now mean tomorrow maybe? Next month? 2 hours? Next year? I am focusing on my relationship with Jesus right now. I don't want to be distracted. She was still looking at her feet. The silence seemed to go on for a long time. At least I lost to a better man, I said to her and laughed. For the first time since the start of this awkward exchange, she turned her gaze from the floor, looked up, and laughed with me. If you want to be happy, don't resent the people who are. Be aware of the poisoned chalice that is umona, envy. Just be happy for others. No need to find displeasure in their pleasure. You can't be happy if you go around thinking others don't deserve happiness. I wish you happiness, a lifetime of it. May all the things you do succeed, and may you learn to spread happiness everywhere you go.
That was another episode of the book These Things Really Do Happen to Me, written by Kaya Dlanga, read by Lerato Mvelase. The book is available online and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Lerato Mvelase, technical production Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapurum.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 15th of January 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwenda. Coming up in the next hour.
The facts presented before this court are either not new and they should not be entertained, and applicant's application to be released on bail is again refused.
The bail application of 2 of the 5 accused in the murder case of rapper Kiernan aka Forbes has been rejected.
In the intervening period, there will be an amalgamation of structures in which the presidents of the 2 organizations will sit down to determine the appropriate leaders at a regional, a provincial, and a national level.
And Action SA has merged with a political party, a Forum for Service Delivery. Coming up in sport.
Novak Djokovic breaks another record and Spurs fans start the hour-and-a-half walk down to the Emirates.
And that's coming up later in the show. The details of that with John Gericke. Please share your views with us. Always want to hear what's on your mind. 41391. That's our SMS line number. You'll be charged R150 per SMS. Can also write to us via X. That platform, our handle at SABC News_radio. Or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Wednesday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, here's the latest news with Ondelambana.
Thank you, Sakina. In the top stories, suspects in AKA murder case denied bail and concerns over bullying incidents at a Tembisa school. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. The Durban Magistrates Court has turned down a renewed bid for bail by 2 of the 5 accused in the murder case of rapper Kiernan aka Forbes Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane were gunned down in Durban in 2023. In his ruling, Magistrate Vincent Hlatshwayo said the accused did not present any new facts to the court which were not already known when bail was denied in May last year. Hlatshwayo added that there is still a likelihood that both Mzwetemba Gwabeni and Lindoku Hlendimande will interfere with state witnesses if they are released on bail. The case has been remanded to the 7th of next month when the state is due to serve the indictment on all 5 accused. Police are investigating after a security guard was found dead at a primary school in Hercules in Pretoria this morning. Police say an employee at the school arrived this morning to find the deceased lying on the ground with a wound to his head. Police spokesperson Temakazo Nebuhuli says there was no sign of a break-in and no items have been reported as stolen from the school so far.
At this stage, the motive of the attack is unknown and no suspects arrested. Anyone who may have information that can assist with the investigation is requested to contact the Crime Stop line at 08600 10111 or report anonymous tip-offs on MySubs app, which can be downloaded on any smartphone. Police investigations continue on this matter.
Parents of children enrolled at Masikakaze Secondary School in Tembisa, east of Johannesburg, are concerned about bullying incidents and crime at the school. They say they fear for the safety of their children and that urgent intervention is needed to beef up security. Parent Felicia Miso says drug abuse is also rife amongst learners at the school.
The Department of Education, jointly with the Department of Home Safety, must strengthen the deployment of security personnel such as Gauteng traffic wardens, security guards or patrollers to enhance visible policing and maintain law and order at schools. Also enhance efforts installing CCTV cameras to ensure that learners, educators and school physical environments are completely safeguarded.
The Border Management Authority says power supply has been disrupted at the Grobler's Bridge border post outside Lephalale, Limpopo, due to flooding. Lephalale Mayor Aaron Mukhehle earlier told SABC News that persistent rainfall had led to the disruption of several services in the area, including the temporary closure of the port of entry. BMA Deputy Assistant Commissioner Mmeme Mokgotsi.
The increased water level has reached a point where it significantly compromises the safe and efficient functioning of the port of entry. As a precautionary measure, all vehicles within the operational space of the port have been cleared following consultations with our Botswana counterparts and thorough deliberation by the Port Management Committee. It has been decided that the temporary suspension of the operations is necessary. This decision reflects our unwavering commitment to the well-being of our personnel, travelers and all stakeholders.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has warned President-elect Donald Trump against risking war with his country. Pezeshkian says he hopes that Trump will promote peace in the Middle East and the world in general, but referencing the possibility of the U.S.-backed Israeli military strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, he said Tehran is not seeking war but would react to any hostile action. Recapping the top story, the Durban Magistrates Court has turned down a renewed bid for bail by 2 of the 5 accused in the murder case of rapper Kenan A.K. Forbes. Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane were gunned down in Durban in 2023. I am on Delambana for SFM News headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's 6 minutes after 12. Thanks so much for tuning in to Update at Noon, and thanks, Omdela. She'll be back with headlines at the bottom of the hour. Well, first day of the 2025 academic year, and so this morning, much fanfare with the little ones going to school for the first time, others entering high school, and, just the matriculants also starting their final schooling year. So it was really interesting to watch the gambit of emotions. But of course, also our reporters have been out across the country looking into those developments, as well as some of the challenges being faced in various places around the country, across the provinces. There are still learners who are yet to be placed as well, so they couldn't go to school today. And there's a lot going on that hopefully our reporters will be able to bring us up to speed on. Gauteng and the Western Cape usually most adversely affected when it comes to influx of learners coming from other provinces. And according to the Gauteng Education Department, their 2023 annual performance plan showed that there were over 723 Gauteng schools that were overcrowded, and a shortage of 5,554 classrooms was reported, and that was a significant increase from 2021. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens this time around. What do those figures come to? Because the department also indicates that it's difficult to plan sometimes, because you don't know where those learners are going to move to. You don't know where the most impact is going to be. And also, it's not just an influx of learners traveling within the country. There may be those from outside the country coming in as well. And you remember there's been quite a lot said, especially in the lead up to the opening of the new school term, about the fact that people are struggling with placement for their children, and yet children that do not have documents, and this could be children whose parents are not necessarily South African, who are able to be accommodated in these schools. But of course, there is a court ruling to this effect. I think it was in the Eastern Cape a few years ago, where that particular precedent was set. So we'll check in with our reporters across the country just to see what the various issues are, and of course also how the first day of school has gone. And then weather warnings have been issued, and floods excuse me, also coming into play in some of the provinces, Limpopo especially. There's also weather warnings for more rain today in parts of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, as well as the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. So a bit of disruption, but we've heard particularly from our reporters in Limpopo about this, so we'll check in with them. And we also still keeping an eye on what's happening in Stilfontein, that recovery operation led by government, and we'll get an update on the numbers as well from Zebulon Mayine. And Action SA, they held a press briefing a short while ago, and we'll tell you more about that, so just stay tuned. And some court stories, as well as the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, we'll check in with our reporters following those as well.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, Forum for Service Delivery has collaborated with Action SA in preparation for the 2026 local government elections, during which the party will compete under the Action SA banner. Now, here's Action SA's national chairperson, Michael Beaumont, elaborating.
This was a vital step to ensure that those seats are not lost, but they are retained. But importantly, they will begin the work of governing under an Action SA policy suite and an Action SA constitution. All members who sign up will be subject to the Action SA Constitution, and in the near future, a joint elective conference will be held at which these organizations will formally come together, and we will interweave our leadership structures across the 9 provinces and at a national level. In the intervening period, there will be an amalgamation of structures in which the presidents of the 2 organizations will sit down to determine the appropriate leaders at a regional, a provincial and a national level to sit on structures, so that those structures are jointly represented in such a manner that going forward there is one organization. Those are the salient details of this agreement to merge, but it is very important to say that the real work begins after this moment, because an agreement signed between a handful of people is one thing, but now we need to go to the ground. We need to go to communities, we need to sign up members of the organizations, and we need to come together in a way which creates one organization with one mission and one purpose for the South African people. And that work will begin as soon as next week, where the presidents of both organizations will be on the road engaging those communities and ensuring what we have is a successful agreement. And as I said to you earlier, it is important to note that this is the first of many steps that Action SA will be taking, because it is necessary to unite the opposition space. We are very proud of the organization to my right and what they have done to bring us here to this point, and we know that together we will work to bring other political parties to the table so that we can become a bolder and stronger alternative for the South African people.
And that was Michael Beaumont, Action SA's national chairperson. Now, following the merger, Action SA President Herman Mashaba announced that Action SA's deputy will now be Mbahare Kekana. Now, Kekana says that they have formed their organization with the aim of tackling issues such as water, housing, electricity, and immigration at grassroots level.
South Africa has not turned out the way we all dreamt it would 30 years into democracy. All the struggles, aspirations, and hopes of our people have amounted next to nothing. The majority of young people still have nothing. South Africa have new expectations. A new generation is emerged, ambitious and disgruntled, frustrated and impatient. We all know what we call AMA 2000. They are so impatient because they cannot tolerate what the GNU is giving them at the current moment. Service delivery in rural municipalities, it's in shambles due to the fact that the ruling party, it is not ready to co-govern, especially in areas where it is in coalition with other political parties. Our opposition parties in rural areas are very weak, and they are bulldozed and forced into maladministration. Service delivery and governance at local level and other spheres of government, they are confronted by corruption, factionalism within the ruling regime. As we are beginning this journey today, the poor have no hope of being serviced. Struggling with jobs, the poor are struggling with water, the roads, electricity, and all that. So this journey, it is not about Action SA. It is not about Forum for Service Delivery. This journey is a calling, is bigger than us. It doesn't matter what name we're going to use, but it is not about politics. It's about everyone who actually loves this country.
And that was Mbahare Kekana, the former president of Forum for Service Delivery, now the new Action SA deputy president. Let us know your thoughts on this.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
50 minutes after 12, the Durban Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal has denied bail to two of the 5 men accused of the murders of rapper Kienan aka Forbes and celebrity chef Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane. Mziwetemba Gwabeni and Lindoguhle Ndibande made a renewed attempt at bail last week, arguing that their legal representatives had new facts on the matter. Now, Gwabeni is alleged to be the mastermind behind the killings, while the other 4 are accused of playing different roles in the February 2023 murders. All 5 accused were denied bail in May last year following their arrest in February of that same year. Now, in handing down judgment in the application, this is what the presiding judge had to say.
In a situation where evidence was known and available to a bail applicant but not presented by him or her at the time of his or her application, such evidence cannot, for purposes of the renewed bail application, be relied upon as new facts. The bail applicant should not be permitted to seek bail on several successive occasions by relying on the piecemeal presentation of evidence. After this court granted its judgment on the 15th of May 2027 refusing bail, the applicants in this matter have approached the High Court on appeal before they brought the renewed bail application on new facts. The High Court had their appeal and ruled that the appeal was not successful. The question that arises now is that can these applicants come back to this court on renewed bail application on new facts? Put differently, should these applicants be allowed to bring a renewed bail application on new facts under these circumstances? If so, in terms of which section? If this court entertains such an application and find that there are indeed new facts that are exceptional and justify their release on bail, what is going to happen to the judgment by the High Court? Can this court review and set aside the judgment of the High Court? If this court finds that there are no new facts that are exceptional and justify their release on bail, can they go back to the High Court and say what to that court which have already made a ruling in this matter? And looking at the totality of evidence, it is the finding of this court that this court cannot and this court should not assist the applicant because the facts presented before this court are either not new and they should not be entertained, and applicant's application to be released on bail is again refused.
And that was the presiding judge in the bail application of two men accused of their involvement in the murder of Kiernan aka Forbes and Dibelo Tibbs Mutswane.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is closing on the 3rd of February 2025. Explore the theatre of the mind and write your 60-minute radio drama play and email it before 5 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Happy New Year, South Africa! SAFM wishes you a prosperous and joyful 2025 as we step into a new year of possibilities. We're here, leading the conversations that move us. Thank you for being part of the SAFM family. Here's to making 2025 a year to remember. Together, SAFM, leading the conversations that move us in 2025.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.6 FM in Mthatha. Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Well, and of course, also keeping an eye on the developments in Mozambique, and that's where the inauguration of President-elect Daniel Chapo is taking place. It is on taking place right now. Just having a look here on the wires where there is a feed, and we also will speak to a correspondent from Mozambique, given that we saw the opposition leader Venancio Mondlane return to that country last week, and again called for a protest, fresh protest. So just looking at that, and we will touch base with someone in Mozambique a little later in the show.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Getting back to the first day of the academic year. Now, while day one of a long 12-year schooling career was seamless for most parents, others were really anxious and frustrated, and some of those have been queuing at the Johannesburg Central District offices in Pimville in Soweto to have their children placed in schools. Now, some allege that they could not effectively utilize the online admission process, while others say that they did apply on time, though the Gauteng systems through the Gauteng systems, but yet the children are yet to be placed. Here is what some of them had to say.
I'm frustrated, I should say, and another thing is that I applied last year, the second day after the opening of the administration. However, the schools that I selected, my child was not placed. After him not being placed, I then went to the district, told them, can they rather move me to a different district whereby I can go for a second option at the school that he prefers. An email was drafted, my email address was taken, however, I haven't received the email. I went there yesterday. Okay, yesterday I will just blame the security guard because he's the one that directed me to the wrong section. I stood there for about 4 hours. When I was eventually directed to the right department, I was told I should come to the Soweto district, of which by then I think it was round about past 3, of which I came in today, and I'm told that there's no placement. So he's now on the waiting list. It makes me feel sad because he's been asking me about his placement since last year. I believe he also did not enjoy his festive seasons.
No, I feel like hopeless. I feel like the system is just like disturbed me because I've been struggling since last year. My child is now sitting at home. We took the transfer early because the schools require transfers like in the middle of the year. I did that. Now my child's on the waiting list. All they told me I must just leave it. I must wait 10 days. Same thing they told me last year, wait 10 days. The whole year went past. My child was still not removed from the school that she was incorrectly placed. It hurts me, especially from in the area where I'm staying. I'm seeing there's so many children that's going to schools from different areas. I see buses picking up children from different areas, but they don't have space for a child that lives in the area. That's what's frustrating me.
I've been sitting here for like a few hours. They told me that they're just going to place my child on a waiting list and that they're going to phone me back in 10 days. If they don't phone me back in 10 days, I must return back to the department. I'm not happy about it at all because I registered and did everything online and now I'm here.
And those are voices of some frustrated parents who have yet to see their children being placed in a school for the current academic year. Meanwhile, the Gauteng Education Department says that over 300,000 learners have been placed. However, it is yet to indicate how many remain on waiting lists still to be placed in schools. But for more on this, we join on the line now by the province's Education MEC, Matume Chilwane. MEC, thanks for your time. Welcome to Update at Noon.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your listeners.
Let's start by getting your reflections on today's start to the 2025 academic year.
No, everything went quite well. There's not really been any major incidents that we could flag as an issue that would have affected any school from starting. So, majority of our schools, except 1 or 2, it was disrupted by parents. Majority have gone through quite smoothly. So we're happy with the first day as a department.
So the 1 or 2 schools where you say there were disruptions by parents, what was that due to?
Infrastructure. There's one school, it's an asbestos school. So, yeah, they were saying that they're demanding a school now. So those are some of the challenges. Nothing beyond that. Infrastructure. One was a principal who was asking for donation. It's a no-fee school. The principal was asking for donation of about 200 rand, and the parents were refusing that just to pay 200 bucks, just 200 rand to donate to the school to cover other expenses. Nothing major. That's what I'm saying. Nothing really major incident. Maybe in Tshwane, a security guard was killed last night at the school, outside the school premises. We found the school outside the school premises. We don't know what happened to that security guard. But besides those 1 or 2 incidents, nothing major, nothing really concerning has transpired across the province. The school went in very well.
MEC Chilwane, how many learners have still not been placed at this stage?
Let me put it this way. The 325,000 that I talk about that we've placed, we say that we have offered spaces to these parents, to these learners at schools. Okay. Now, the 19,000, that was an incomplete application. We didn't place because you can't place somebody that you don't have information about the child. So we don't have, the parents, sometimes they'll just go on the system, register their name and register the child's name. And that's it. So we can't proceed if we don't have full information. That's why we didn't consider the 19,000 applications. But so far now, with late applications, we were sitting at 14,000 yesterday. Complete application, and with late application, when you go in the system, the school that you find with space and you accept, you are immediately placed there. So it's unlike where you can choose. So you can only choose what's a space at the school that is available. So the only problem, the parents that you see are parents that are not happy with the schools that you have placed their kids at.
So let's speak to that, just in terms of the rights of all concerned in this particular matter, in terms of parents not being happy with where their children are placed. I think I watched a video on TikTok yesterday where this mother was complaining that her child had been placed in an Afrikaans medium school, and there were no offerings of English instruction in that school, and her child does not speak Afrikaans. So speak to us, make us understand what goes into these placements and what remedy is there for parents if they are unhappy about where their child has been placed?
No, I mean, for instance, if you're saying that parent on TikTok, that parent should have come forward, but we don't make such mistakes, actually, because when you apply, we also ask for the home language, and we also ask for the medium language of instruction that the child is doing, utilizing. And that's the language, that's what we look at, and the report is for instance in grade 8, for the report, so that we know that the child is doing English as home language. So therefore, where we must place the child, the school must offer English as a home language. So that's what we do. We don't just randomly take a child and put them doing CPD and put them in an Zulu, a home language school. We hardly don't make those mistakes. But if that has happened, the parent can just come forward and let's verify and look at the application. And those who have done that error, we usually take them to account. But we don't make such mistakes, I have to say. We hardly do. The issue is space and preference, effectively. As much as parents can want a particular school, if that school can only take 300 grade 8 or grade 1s, we can't exceed that. Because then now we're moving into overcrowding, and that will compromise teaching and learning. You might find that the school had 2,000 applications, meaning 1,700 kids won't be able to go into that particular school. So it's quite difficult for us, and that's where we find ourselves. With these parents who are appealing and arguing that they didn't choose the school, they want this one, and we go there and show them on paper that, look, you applied, we're number 500 on the list, and this school takes a maximum of 250 grade 8s. So there's nothing we can do in this school that you want now. But there is space in a school nearby, meaning that we won't take you if you stay in Vale, for instance, and you wanted to go to a school in Vale, and then let's say the school is full, I'm using Vale as a case in point. We won't take you and place you very far, maybe go and place you somewhere there in Fenton. We will not do that. We look at schools in the immediate area, providing the home language that you had applied with as a medium of instruction for the child. And that's what we do. Then we liaise with the parent and say, this is where we found space, and this is where we want to place the child.
And I guess that is one of the other issues that parents generally seem to complain about. But as you say, perhaps no space in the preferred schools. But I think one of the frustrated parents we listened to earlier was also talking about, and I think what it is, MEC, is it's an anticipation that if you live in, using your example, Edenvale, and there's a school around the corner for you, I think people would naturally assume that their child would be placed at the school closest to them. And when it doesn't happen, it leaves them rather frustrated as parents.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is that, of course, the parent is correct to actually expect and demand their child to be in the school. So what happens is that parents borrow addresses from locals in the very same filler zone of that school and apply using those addresses. So when are placing utilizing that information that has been given to us. That I stay here, here's a proof of address, etc., then we place. And then later on you find the child does not stay in the parents, the family doesn't stay in the state in visa.
Now that is a problem, MAC, because, you know, and as you say, the parents have every right to expect, if I have a school down the road from me, I have every right to expect that my child will go to that school. And when you find out down the line that people have actually fraudulently applied, using fraudulent documents to apply, what happens then? Because it's a case of, I have a school down the road, my child can't get into the school, but I see children being bussed into school every day.
Schools know that some schools do verification of address. They do that, and we do allow them to do that. That they can go and verify that, okay, this child has applied, does the child actually stay there? But some don't. But in such a case, we will not be able to remove the child from school, Sakino. We can't do that. The child is in school, is learning, they're acclimatized. You can't disrupt that particular process in place. So, but the process of integrity on parents is quite important. And that's why we emphasize that even township schools, you know, let me show you a case in point. There are parents who have lined up in a school, I won't mention its name now. That school has not achieved 100% matric pass rate in the past 5 years or so. It has been hovering between 85 and maybe 90 at the maximum. They are queuing in that school. They are leaving a school in the township that has been giving them 100% for the past 3 years matric pass. They're driving past that particular school. A school that is actually acting as a feeder for UJ and VET. They've got a relationship with those two particular universities. As a feeder of those two institutions, they drive past that school just because the school is located in the township. And that's some of the challenges. That's why when we speak, we actually appeal and demonstrate figuratively, with figure data, that look, here are schools in the township. They've produced 100%. They've produced top learners. These learners are going to go to the same university as those that use the children that you, in fact, let me just say in private school. So we need to trust us that within the system, we invest and created interventions to improve our township school to a point where, as we speak now, the gap between no fee and fee paying school in terms of performance is at just 7%. The difference is 7%. In the past, it used to be 60%. We have narrowed down to 7%. So ultimately, at this rate, eventually, township schools will be performing better than former military schools, which are fee-paying schools.
Well, let me see, we are out of time, but I'll tell you what, we will follow up with you given that you still have children that need placement, so we'll keep an eye on this. But thanks so much for your time, Gauteng Education Department MEC Matume Chilwane. It is slightly late to news, but Ondelambana, I hope you're still there.
I'm here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sakina. In the news headlines, the Durban Magistrates Court has turned down a renewed bid for bail by 2 of the 5 accused in the murder case of rapper Kenan aka Forbes. Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibzu Mutswane were gunned down in Durban in 2023. Research by the non-profit National Center for Child Protection indicates that South African children are addicted to watching explicit sexual content online, and South Korean investigators say the impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol is refusing to answer questions under interrogation. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, it is a Wednesday afternoon, and our analyst this afternoon from ABSA, we have Ricardo Smith, who is Chief Investment Officer at ABSA Investments. Good afternoon, Ricardo.
Afternoon, Sakina, and compliments of the new year. I'm just looking at some of the market performance, seeing all green today. The All Share is up 0.7% resources up 1.6%, with financials up 0.45%, industrials up 0.58%, and listed property up 0.68%. So quite positive for the day. On a year-to-date basis, most of these are still down, however, for the year, with resources being the standout performer, up a 12-odd%, mainly led by the gold miners. From an economic data perspective, it is still a bit thin, but we are looking at the inflation print next week and looking to see what the MPC's rate decision will be towards the end of the month. In the U.S., we did see inflation, or rather unemployment coming in at 4.1% last week, and inflation coming out today. So they might also take a cue on what happens in the U.S. with the U.S. Fed. And then just on global markets, we did see the S&P 500 also closing a moderately positive at 0.1%. The UK markets with the FTSE 100 up 0.65%, Eurostock up 0.2%, a bit mixed in Asia, with the Shanghai in China down 0.4%, Nikkei in Japan down a moderate 0.1%, and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong up 0.3%. The rand gaining just a bit of strength against the dollar, but not a lot in it. Currently trading around 18 rand 86 against the dollar. Thanks, Sakina.
Oh, thanks so much, Ricardo Smith. Ricardo is Chief Investment Officer at ABSA Investments.
Just last month, it was December, the season to be merry, or December, for those who know that it's not just a month, but a lifestyle. Now it's January and life is threatening watching financially. There's back to school and your own goals, and January is on everyone's lips.
Mara, you can get the relief you need right now and start the year strong with the personal loan from Nedbank with access up to 400,000 Rand. Search Nedbank Personal Loans and get a loan that offers you more. Nedbank. See money differently. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Abafana West 10 and the Rockets are both looking for a decent spot in the top half.
They are all confident they will walk away from the battlefield with jubilance.
This is the Betway Premiership.
Catch the great passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows FC takes on TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 18 January, live on SABC 1 at 2:30 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
My name is Bandi Linyawane. I'm 17 and I'm a professional cricket player. While on tour, I was battling to keep up with school, so my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. It's changed the game for me with the ability to learn from anywhere. I can get ahead and stay ahead. Sign up at uctonlinehighschool.com. It's not too late. Applications close 20 January 2025.
What you're about to hear is not an email from Standard Bank. Good day, Dave. You haven't updated your details, so your account will soon be blocked. Please confirm your card number, bank PIN, card CVV number by clicking the link below. What? Don't fall for it. Standard Bank will never ask for your banking details in an email. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more, or call our fraud line on 0800 222 050. Another lesson to hashtag beat the scam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
SAFM Sport with John Gericka.
Good afternoon, John.
How's it?
Good.
Lekker, let's go. We're going to run out of time because you went long. It's fine. I'd come at you. Premier, see, I'm the only person on the planet that can say that. You realize that? Like nobody else would dare. Because I can. Premier League coming up tonight. Some big moves in the Premier League this evening after last night's results. Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester City held to draws. Arsenal, Newcastle and Villa will be out to close the gaps tonight. Villa go to Everton at 9:30. The mighty Toffees have David Moyes back as manager.
Well, it was really quick. I think Tuesday or Wednesday when I first get a little bit of call to say that there was a chance there was going to be a change. I had several conversations with Dan and Mark, and that's where it really took off from, really. But up until that point, I had no idea. I actually thought, Sean was doing a really good job, and I didn't see any changes materialising at the time. And in truth, I wasn't necessarily out there looking to go back, but as everybody knows, this is a different beast to me than many other clubs.
Leicester against Crystal Palace at 9:30. Newcastle taking Wolves at 9:30 as well. Then Arsenal against Spurs. Mikel Arteta has been criticised for not signing a new striker, not only by fans, reporters and analysts, but also by Sakina Kamwendo. He was asked about this, Sakina, ahead of today's match.
But my answer doesn't change. My answer remains the same. We are actively looking in the market to improve the squad. And that's been since day one. We will be naive not to do that because it's an opportunity always to evolve the team, to improve the squad, and especially with the circumstances that we have. So yes, we are looking and we are trying, and let's see what we are able to do.
How many times have you asked me to ask the question? Well, there we go.
He ain't looking hard enough.
Looking in the wrong place. Australian Open second round action today. Arina Sabalenka beat Buzas Manera 6-3, 7-5. Novak Djokovic set a new record when he beat Jaime Faria 6-1, 6-7, 6-3, 6-2. The Serb surpassed Roger Federer's all-time record of 430 Grand Slam singles matches played.
Whether I win or lose, one thing is for sure, I'll always leave my heart out on the court. And so Grand Slams, of course, they are the pillars of our sport. They mean everything for the history of this sport. They are the ones that motivate the youngest children. When I was a kid, the first image I had of tennis was watching Wimbledon finals. I was 4 or 5 years old. So, yeah, Grand Slams are definitely the most important tournaments in the world in our sport. It's been over 30 years of existence of this incredible event. So I'm just blessed to be making another record, I guess, today.
Elsewhere, Coco Gauff beat Jodianne Burrage 6-3, 7-5, and Zheng Qinwen, runner-up to Arina Sabalenka last year and Olympic singles gold medalist, lost 7-6, 6-3 to German veteran Laura Sigmund. Later on, Pedro Martinez meets second seed Alexander Zverev. Dakar Rally, as I told you yesterday, Henk Latergan has lost the lead after yesterday's stage 9. Yasid Al-Raji and co-driver Timo Golchak have taken over the lead. Latergan 7 minutes and 9 seconds back. They got lost yesterday. Listen to the GPS. Brian Baragwanath is in 10th place at the moment, along with co-driver Leonard Kramer for Century Racing Factory Team, 2.5 hours back. In the bikes, Michael Doherty, best placed South African, in 17th, 3 hours and 41 minutes off the pace. Rugby news, the Sharks are without several key players ahead of the final Champions Cup Group showdown against Bordeaux Bagels on Sunday. Jordan Hendrickse, Makazula Mapimpi and Vincent Koch failed head injury assessments. They're already without Eben Estebeth, Andre Esthuizen and Apelela Fassi. Hendrickse, Koch and Mapimpi will be monitored over the next week to see if they can link up with the squad in Wales next week. There they go to the URC against Cardiff. Meanwhile, the Lions play the Dragons in round 4 of the European Challenge Cup at Ellis Park on Saturday. They advance, if they win, to the round of 16. Losses in the URC to Munster and Leinster and in the Challenge Cup to the Ospreys and now Montpellier have put them on the back foot. Well beaten by Montpellier in France. And assistant coach Byron Peterson says they have to give a better account of themselves.
We need to be much better. I think we disappointed ourselves and obviously our supporters because we really went there with that mindset to get away with the win. So we disappointed ourselves from the beginning. Errors in the game that we made that we don't normally make as well. We are very happy to be back. It's nice to be back at Ellis Park. We actually had a training at Ellis Park today, so it's just you can see in the mood of the players and everything. It is just good to have everyone together again and to be back home.
And finally, I know you've been waiting for this. Former world heavyweight champion Tyson Fury's announced his retirement from boxing. Again, Fury last fought in December. Remember, he lost that match to Alexander Usyk. The 36-year-old announced his retirement after beating Dylan White in April 22. He came back 6 months later. He says he's enjoyed 2 stints as heavyweight champion, holds a record of 34 wins, 2 defeats, and 1 draw.
Wow.
Are you amazed and shocked?
Yeah. So, 2 things.
Yes.
Djokovic.
Yes.
It's clear what he's now just out to break old records.
Yeah.
Everything will be his.
And he needs to win a Grand Slam again, which is the challenge. Can he win a Grand Slam again?
Yeah, but he's already out there, so nobody. He is already, based on that, the greatest.
Yes.
Of all time.
Yeah.
So he's just adding to it now. And then, of course, he's breaking all other records.
Breaking all the other records that he can.
Yeah. And then also I was quite concerned there about those head injury assessments.
It's to have 3 players out like that. I'm trying to find the positive. Yes, you're right. These guys are working overtime, but in the olden days they would have played. They would it wasn't even a thing. So the fact that they're not playing, it's a good thing for the heads and the future. But you're right. There are a number of players getting concussed, head injuries. So we're keeping a close eye on that.
I don't know if you've seen or followed in any way what happens with these NFL players, into retirement a lot of the times, where because of all the concussions over time, they've reported, for example, a lot of suicides or suicide attempts among them.
There's they made movies about it. And they're trying new helmets and things in the US. In England, there's court cases and things coming out of it. So
which is why I'm so concerned about that. It's a weird thing.
Okay, we're going to go. Goodbye.
Bye.
My name is Bandile Nyawane. I'm 17 and I'm a professional cricket player. While on tour, I was battling to keep up with school, so my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. It's changed the game for me with the ability to learn from anywhere. I can get ahead and stay ahead. Sign up at uctonlinehighschool.com. It's not too late. Applications close 20 January 2025.
The Bees want to be all over the pitch and keep the 3 points on home ground.
It could be tied to Brentford. There's wishes in here.
Meanwhile, the Reds want to emphasize that they will never walk alone, but with victory.
Lovely ball, Gakpo, goal! Brilliant as well, as ever, from Cody Gakpo.
This is the Premier League, striving for excellence. Experience the glittering encounter between Brentford FC and Liverpool FC on Saturday, 18 January at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
game. Don't wake up to less money or no money in your account. Add an extra layer of security for unusual transactions. Nominate a trusted person on the Standard Bank banking app. If something seems off, they can decline transactions for you, even while you sleep. Get trusted person on your banking app today. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more. Another lesson to #beat the scam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, 101 illegal mine workers have been retrieved from Shaft 11 in Stilfontein in the Northwest Province. This was by the second day of operations led by government. 60 bodies have also been retrieved so far, and the operation started on Monday and is expected to continue for about 10 days. For the latest, our reporter Zebulon Mayina is there, and he joins us on the line now. Zebulon, good afternoon. So by yesterday, we were told 101 illegal miners had been brought to the surface. Can you just give us an update on the actual numbers now of how many have been brought to the surface, how many alive, and how many deceased?
Good afternoon, Sakina, and the listeners out there. As you rightfully said, that 101 illegal miners were retrieved yesterday. But with regards to the numbers, we can't confirm now that how many are they increasing each and every hour. But since in the morning till now, we understand that about 22 illegal miners have been brought to the surface, and then those who have died, the number is 9. But we have seen earlier on some of the illegal miners being retrieved. Possibly maybe in the next 30 minutes or so, we might get an update as to up until possibly 1 o'clock. This is the exact number since in the morning, but the number keeps on rising each and every hour with regards to the miners who are retrieved.
Zebulon, what is the process once the miners are brought to the surface? Because they are mining illegally. Are people being arrested? What happens once people are brought to the surface?
All right. No, you'll understand that since the government, this operation led by the government started 2 days ago, what is happening is that those who are being retrieved, especially those who are still alive, they will be taken to the doctors and the nurses on site before they can be handed over to the police. Then after that, once they've been handed over to the police will be able to process them and then take them to the nearest police station, which is Stilfontein Police Station, for further processing. But with regards to the foreign nationals, they are also being processed and being charged with contravention of Immigration Act. So basically, they will go to court. Then after court, then they will be deported to their respective countries.
And one of the other questions, of course, around this particular matter is the question of how many people are still underground. Has any sort of figure been bandied about regarding that, Zebulon?
Yes, earlier on we spoke to one of the community members because we understand that there are two community volunteers who on day-to-day basis go with the crane underground basically to monitor the situation, because we understand that on months it was a chaos underground whereby some illegal owners, they wanted to overcrowd the crane that is being used, because we understand it manages to take only 10 people. But those people, when we want to what is happening underground, their community representative, you were saying that they are saying that the situation underground is that there are so many people who have died. What they have understand is that they are
What a pity. We're losing that connection there to Zebulon Maine, because I wanted to also ask Zebulon about the residents of Stilfontein allegedly complaining that government mortuaries are filled to capacity, and what the situation is there. But unfortunately, that line deteriorating to a point where we can't really continue that conversation. But that was our reporter Zebulon Maine out in Stilfontein in the Northwest Province. Meanwhile, the South African Federation of Trade Unions, that's SAFTU, is exploring all legal avenues to hold the government accountable for illegal miners that have died underground. Now, the Minister of Mineral Resources, Gwede Mantashe, says that government should not be blamed for the deaths of illegal miners. But for more on this, we're joined on the line by SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. Mr. Vavi, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Update at Noon.
Happy New Year to you, Sakina, and everybody listening.
Thanks so much, and the same to you. So, Mr. Vavi, Minister Gwede Mantashe says government should not be blamed for the deaths of these illegal miners. SAFTU, you disagree with that?
Totally disagree, Sakina, because you will recall that we went to Stilfontein with the Minister of Police last year, 1st and 2nd week of December. In that period, the minister, on behalf of the Northwest government, made a firm commitment that they are going to find ways of rescuing the mine workers at Shaft 11, recognizing that it was humanly, practically not possible for any of them to climb out of Shaft 11, 2.8 kilometers underground, without stairways, without any kind of a lift. And we thought that they were serious, and all of a sudden they didn't do that, despite announcing 3 phases, including sending down a drone that was going to look at how many of these workers are in underground and what will be the best way to take them out. We are now talking on the 2nd week of January, and your reporter has just told you that 9 more workers have been brought to the surface dead. It makes the number now to climb to 68, bigger than the Sharpeville massacre of 1960, bigger than the Marikana massacre of 2012, and bigger than any other thing we've witnessed during democracy. We are being sent back to the darkest days of colonialism, where the state takes a responsibility upon itself after it has failed to enforce its own laws, because we shouldn't be talking about illegal miners in the first place in South Africa. There are migration laws. There is all manner of plethora of laws that forces the companies to make sure that the mines are properly rehabilitated, they are sealed. Those laws are not being implemented, to the point that the Auditor General tells us that there are 6,100 abandoned ownerless mines in South Africa. With this government that is now saying it won't take responsibility, rightly or watching the whole episode unfolding. In our view, if a pathologist report comes out to confirm that these 68 workers so far who have died because of malnutrition, because of dehydration, because of starvation, we will go to the nearest court and hold the government accountable.
Let me ask this, because the terminology you use is very interesting. You say these are workers. So if they are workers, then the assumption is that they work for somebody. And
exactly.
So who are they working for?
Some of them are working for criminals who have jumped into the space which is totally unregulated. Some of them are working for agencies who go out of here in South Africa to recruit them in Lesotho, Mozambique, Malawi, and everywhere, and promise them work, and only when they are here, they get told that they are going to use a rope going down almost 3 kilometers underground to work. Some of them are being driven by utter desperation of poverty from the Eastern Cape to agree to work under the conditions. Some of them are working for illicit mineral traders who are making, according to the latest reports, between 5 to 25 billion rands annually in this illicit trade of minerals that connect crooketed business people in South Africa and those elsewhere in the world. That's what is happening with this government sleeping.
So, and I'm sure there will be much more discussion later about, government and the failures on the side of government and also the owners of these mines. But with regard to the miners, the illegal miners, because do we agree that they are mining illegally?
Absolutely, Shaki. There's no doubt about it. And we are not defending, let's just emphasize this point. We are not defending illegality. Mm-hmm. We are insisting, though, that we are a constitutional state. We have a Bill of Rights. And the state has a responsibility to apprehend and put anybody breaking a law on a trial, to get them convicted by a court of law, and so that they can serve their term in prison. That's the state we fought for. That's the type of democracy some of us sacrificed and put everything we had on the line to achieve. We cannot agree that the government must now take a responsibility to willfully murder people because they are breaking the law.
We are out of time, but I need to ask you, when you say government is willfully murdering people here, explain that as succinctly as you can, please, Mr. Vavi. It's already 1 o'clock.
Because government undertook to rescue those workers in the 1st and 2nd week of December. In a month thereafter, it won't allow people to drop food and water, and it has not rescued them. After a month, it finds people out of that